The difference between medical malpractice versus negligence. This is printed in simonlawpc.com, February 19th, 2024. The Simon Law Firm. Medical malpractice is a general term often used to describe any case where a doctor causes harm to a patient. While this is somewhat true, there are two types of cases an injured patient could bring against their doctor, depending on their individual facts. Medical malpractice cases are brought when there's a presence of intent, whether obvious or discreet. Medical negligence cases are brought when there is no intent, but the act that caused harm is a mistake. Duty of care for medical professionals. Duty of care is a pivotal ethical and legal responsibility for legal professionals, representing their commitment to providing a standard of treatment consistent with prevailing norms. This obligation includes establishing a patient-provider relationship, delivering standardized care, prioritizing patient well-being, obtaining informed consent, ensuring a continuity of care. In legal terms, the duty of care forms the basis for actions in medical negligence or malpractice cases. Compliance is crucial for maintaining professional licenses, as violations can lead to disciplinary actions. What is negligence? Medical practitioners are held to a high standard due to the critical nature of their responsibilities. All types of employees make mistakes every day, but mistakes made by doctors can sometimes be fatal. Negligence is a legal concept arising when a healthcare professional fails to meet the standard of care expected in their field, resulting in harm or injury to the patient. Medical negligence claims do not rely on intent, but rather on the act or omission considered a mistake by the doctor that causes injury or harm. For the incident to be considered medical negligence, certain elements must be present. There must be a causal connection between the breach and the patient's injury, a breach of duty of care owed by the healthcare provider to the patient, and damages suffered by the patient as a result of the mistake. Medical negligence cases often require expert testimony to establish the standard of care and demonstrate how it was not met in a particular situation. Examples of negligence in medical settings. There are various diverse scenarios in which medical negligence can occur. Medical professionals have an obligation to maintain a high standard of care to ensure the well-being of their patients, but complacency can easily lead to these mistakes. Misdiagnosis or delayed diagnosis. A common form of medical negligence occurs when a healthcare provider fails to accurately diagnose a common medical condition or makes a late diagnosis that leads to complications or advanced disease progression. Surgical errors. Negligence during surgical procedures can take various forms, such as operating on the wrong body part, leaving surgical instruments inside the patient, or performing unnecessary surgeries. Any of these errors in surgery can cause severe physical and emotional distress to the patient. Medication errors. Administering the wrong medication in correct dosage, or failing to consider a patient's allergies or potential drug interactions constitute medical negligence. Making such medication errors adversely affect the patient's health and well-being. Birth injuries. Negligence during prenatal care or childbirth can lead to birth injuries, affecting both the mother and the newborn. Failure to promptly address complications or performing inadequate monitoring can result in long-term consequences. Lack of informed consent. Patients have the right to make informed decisions about their health care. It can be considered negligence when healthcare providers fail to adequately inform patients about the potential risks or the benefits of other treatments. Failure to follow up. Medical negligence may also manifest in a healthcare provider's failure to follow up with the patient after a procedure or treatment. The lack of continuity can lead to undetected complications or exacerbate existing health issues. What is medical malpractice? In medical malpractice cases, intent must be present, but it's not always the definition of intent we may think of immediately. In this context, intent is defined as an act or omission that a doctor knew or should have known would cause harm to the patient. Medical malpractice can apply to the doctors, nurses, or other medical professionals involved in a patient's case. Unlike negligence, malpractice pertains to the specific actions or omissions within the healthcare context that lead to the patient's harm, injury, or death. For an incident to be considered medical malpractice, certain criteria must be met, such as breach of duty owed to the healthcare professional to provide substandard care, a direct link between the breach and the patient's injury, and measurable damages suffered by the patient. Medical malpractice claims that involved a thorough investigation of medical records and require expert testimony to establish the deviation from the standard of care. Malicious intent is not required for a case to be tried as malpractice, but intent and failure to meet the standard of care are central to these claims. Examples of medical malpractice. Adhering to high standards of care is critical to the medical professional to prevent harm and ensure patient well-being. Unfortunately, the actions of the healthcare professionals can deviate from these standards. Anesthesia errors. Administering too much or too little anesthesia during a medical procedure can lead to serious complications, and it's shocking how often this happens, including brain damage, and their monitoring and precise dosage administration are crucial to avoid malpractice and anesthesia. Failure to obtain informed consent. Patient have the right to be fully informed about the risks, benefits, and alternatives before undergoing any medical intervention. Medical malpractice can occur when healthcare providers perform a procedure without obtaining informed consent from the patient. Failure to diagnose or delay a diagnosis. If a healthcare professional fails to diagnose a medical condition in a timely manner, it can result in the progression of the disease and diminished chances of successful treatment, potentially constituting medical malpractice. Inadequate follow-up care. After a medical procedure or treatment, healthcare providers must provide appropriate follow-up care to monitor the patient's recovery. Failure to do so may lead to complications or the worsening of the patient's condition, constituting medical malpractice. Improper use of medical equipment. Healthcare professionals are expected to be proficient in handling medical equipment. Incorrect use of medical equipment, such as surgical tools or diagnostic devices, can lead to severe injuries. Obstetric negligence. Medical malpractice in obstetrics can occur during prenatal care, labor, or delivery. Examples include failure to monitor fetal distress, improper use of forceps or vacuum extractors, and inadequate response to complications resulting in birth injuries. Prescription errors. Providing the wrong medication Incorrect dosage, overlooking potential drug interactions can lead to serious harm. Prescription errors constitute medical malpractice and can have severe consequences for the patient. When looking at individual cases, the issue of negligence versus malpractice is a key. Both invite different elements that must be proven, and while they share similarities, there are implications in specific contexts within the healthcare field. Negligence is a broader concept encompassing the deviation from the standard of care expected from a healthcare professional. Medical malpractice is a subset of negligence related to the professional's actions or omissions from the accepted standard of care that resulted in harm. Malpractice cases have distinct legal requirements and considerations that go much deeper than negligence. Similarities of negligence and malpractice. Medical negligence and malpractice share several commonalities and overlap in several ways within healthcare. Breach of standard of care. Both negligence and malpractice involve a breach of the standard of care expected from a healthcare professional. This breach signifies a failure to meet the established norms and practices within the medical community. Causation and harm. In both cases, there must be a direct link between the healthcare professional's actions or omissions and the harm the patient suffered. Establishing causation is crucial in demonstrating the negligence or medical malpractice directly led to the adverse outcome. Legal action. In medical malpractice or negligence cases, patients can pursue legal action. Legal proceedings typically involve proving the breach of duty, causation, and damages suffered by the patient. Expert testimony. Expert witnesses are crucial in both cases. They help establish the standard of care in the medical field, assess whether it was breached, and explain the connection between the breach and the harm. Despite the similarities, the medical malpractice has additional legal requirements. The key difference between the two types of actions is the presence of intent. Because medical malpractice cases require the intent element, the injured party must prove that their doctor knew or should have known the action would result in harm, which led to the standard of care being breached. For negligence cases, the injured party must only prove an unintended act or omission committed by the doctor resulted in harm. There's also some other distinctions between the two. Scope of application. Negligence. As a broader application, it can occur in various professional settings, not limited to healthcare. Malpractice. This is a specific negligence that occurs within the healthcare field, involving the actions or omissions made by healthcare professionals. Standard of care. Negligence involves a breach of the general standard of care expected in a given situation. Malpractice requires a breach of the specialized standard of care established through expert testimony within the medical community. Legal requirements. Negligence generally requires proving the breach of duty, causation, and damages. Malpractice involves additional legal considerations. Expert testimony. They may involve expert testimony to establish the general standard of care, and a malpractice requires that the expert witnesses to define and attest to the specialized standard of care in the medical field. Consequences and penalties. In negligence, the consequences may vary depending on the industry, and penalties may not be as severe as in medical malpractice cases. Malpractice can lead to serious consequences, including legal actions, license revocation, and significant financial liabilities for healthcare professionals. Legal implications of negligence versus malpractice. The legal implications of negligence and medical malpractice are profound, with significant consequences for healthcare professionals and affected patients. Understanding these implications is essential for navigating the complexities of legal proceedings and ensuring accountability in the healthcare industry. In cases of negligence, the consequences may vary depending on the severity of the negligence and the industry involved, but it can lead to some common legal outcomes. Civil liability. Individuals harmed by negligence have the right to pursue civil damages such as medical expenses, lost wages, and pain and suffering. Professional repercussions. Healthcare professionals found negligent may face professional repercussions, including damage to their reputation, disciplinary action from licensing boards, and potential limitation on their ability to practice in the future. Financial consequences. Negligence claims can lead to financial liabilities for the responsible party, including payment of damages to the affected individuals. With medical malpractice being a subset of negligence specific to the healthcare field, there are additional legal considerations when filing medical malpractice lawsuits. These legal implications may include complex legal proceedings. Medical malpractice cases often involve specialized legal proceedings. The need for expert witnesses to establish the specialized standard of care in the medical field adds a layer of complexity to these cases. Higher stakes. The consequences of medical malpractice can be more severe than general medical negligence. In addition to civil liability, healthcare professionals may face criminal charges in extreme cases, especially if gross negligence or intentional misconduct is alleged. Professional license revocation. Healthcare providers found guilty of medical malpractice may face the revocation or suspension of their professional licenses. A medical malpractice lawsuit can have a lasting impact on their careers and professional standing within the healthcare community. Insurance premiums and coverage. Medical malpractice claims can increase insurance premiums for healthcare professionals and institutions. Healthcare providers should maintain medical malpractice insurance to protect against potential financial burdens. Whether your potential case is a malpractice or negligence claim should be left to expert attorneys in healthcare-related litigation. The negligence and medical malpractice attorneys at the Simon Law Firm, PC, are ready to review the key facts of your case, determine whether it is malpractice or negligence action, and litigate it to hold the doctor accountable for their actions on your behalf. If you believe you or a loved one's doctor has committed malpractice or medical negligence, contact the Simon Law Firm, PC, today for a full free case consultation.